Hello, welcome to the Redtv Garden. I'm Peter Jackson. Hopefully most of you over the bank holiday weekends managed to get out and cut the lawns, make some new borders, get ready for those bedding plants which in a few weeks' time will be safe to put out. But there's still lots of other little jobs to do in the garden. Things are growing very, very quickly. Some things have finished flowering, we need to prune them back. Some of the evergreens we need to trim back and actually make into shape. So join me now, let's have a look at what we can do with quite a common garden plant, the ordinary box plant. We can shape it, we can topiary it, we can do all sorts of things with it. So join me now, to see what we can do. This plant, common box, or Buxa sempervirens to give it its proper title, is a very versatile, a very good garden plant. It survives most situations. It will grow in full sun, it will even grow in dense shade. It stays evergreen, lovely dark green foliage all late summer, all winter long, and we get these new soft growths coming out now. But when we want to shape it, we have to shape it little and often, so it's trimming probably 2-3 times a year throughout the growing season, just very, very lightly. I always prefer these one-handed shears. They're old sheep shears really, available at most of your garden centres and garden stores. I find these much better than the traditional shears where you've got the two handles, because I'm actually working closer to the plant. I can handle it better, I can cut a lot neater. So I always find these a great, great help, particularly when I'm doing topiary work, when we're forming shapes and different ideas. But with a plant like this, I mean, a few minutes ago this was looking quite ragged and quite bedraggled. A few quick cuts, and it actually really do ask you to check for birds' nests, even in low plants like this, in hedges, in individual shrubs, anything like that. The birds nest all over the place. And obviously at this time of the year, the birds are nesting, there's lots of young fledglings about. They don't want us going in and disturbing them or pruning them. They want all the help we can give them, not any hindrance. So if you do find a bird's nest, just leave it for a few weeks. It won't make any harm to the shrub, to the plant, anything like that. It just means once the birds have finished nesting and the fledglings have flown, then we shall go in, we shall prune a little bit more wood off, undoubtedly, but that won't matter. The birds are more important to us. So before you cut anything, hedges, bushes, individual shrubs, please, please check for those very, very valuable birds' nests. But going back to the box, we can do all sorts of shapes and sizes. We can do lovely globes, we can do pyramids. A great favourite at the moment is the spirals, where we kind of taper them up to a lovely point and have a no definite spiral. But if you've got an ordinary bush in the garden, just pick a shape. We chose to cube this, so we've got a nice solid cube there. We can see quite a few cut marks on the top here. In another week or 10 days, when the new growth comes, we will actually hide all those wounds. So it looks a little bit drastic when you've done it. Don't worry. 2 weeks' time you'll come back, you'll be very, very proud of yourselves. So let's go and have a look at some other ideas that we can do with a box hedge. Well, not too bad for a first trim. As you can see, quite a few wounds here, nothing to worry about. In 2 weeks, they'll all grow out. We won't see any of that. And we should probably trim this probably 2-3 times throughout the growing months of this summer. But we've got a nice basic shape now. So let's go and have a look at some of the other topiary work we can do. Form a pyramid, and even one of those lovely topiaries that we so often admire and with great admiration. This one we can see a little bit overgrown. Quite a bit of this year's new growth which wants to come off, some old branches which were obviously missed last year. Now, to get a really nice shape of this is going to take a couple of trimmings. We shall get a rough idea this time what it's going to do, and then we shall work on it over the rest of this summer. And with anything like this, the one thing I like to do is have a rough sort of template. And this we can do by either getting 3 bamboo canes and forming a wigwam and just putting over it, and we can cut to that. I prefer actually to have an ordinary bamboo cane so that I can just get roughly where we're going, and then I can take these off. It's not too bad. Move him in here. There's quite a gap in this one. This will actually fill up tremendously as the summer comes on. Don't be too worried if you remove the odd branch which you think, oh dear, shouldn't have cut that one. They will soon come back again. And it's the sort of job you can go to throughout the growing summer and really make quite a high impact on. And after a trimming like this, we shall give it a bit of feed, either through a foliar feed, through the watering can or through the garden sprayer, or an ordinary rose food, just a light application of a rose food. Come out very, very soon once we start getting some warmer days, certainly some warmer evenings, get some nice balmy evenings, we shall get some nice new growth. And it's one time if we can actually just go out little and often and just trim these up, they will look so much better, as do most of your garden shrubs and hedges. Once they're actually growing like this, if we can just go out and trim them little and often, we don't seem to have such that mammoth task. So it takes a few minutes, but it can save a long time and certainly help the plants look better, and certainly look better all summer long. So now let's go to one of the more traditional ones, the topiary one, or the spirals as we call them. Now this one has already been trained, so this really just needs a light haircut just to show off the spirals a little bit. And you'll see at the moment the spirals are very, very popular. It seems to be more of a fashion statement at the moment. I know many plants are getting ready for the Chelsea Flower Show now in a few weeks' time, and the spirals seem to be one of the very, very much of the in things. You can spiral anything. You can spiral your conifers, you can spiral any of your evergreens, your euonymus, your leylandi, the golden leylandi, yews, anything like that. We can actually form these spirals, and they really do look quite special. But of course, the spirals, when they're ready trained from the garden centres and the nurseries, they are expensive. So how can we actually form our own spiral? Well, actually it's quite simple. Even if we've got a plant like this or an ordinary conifer, really all we need is a piece of string and a small cane. And if we wanted to spiral this one, for instance, we would pick a point and we would just put him into the ground or into the container like this. And then really we want to work out where we want the spirals. We've used an orange string here. You can use white. Obviously don't use green because you wouldn't see it, you wouldn't know where to cut to. And then if we just go round and we can just form roughly like this where it goes, where we want our spirals to be. And just step back just to get him a little bit more even, something like that. That gives us a template. We now know where to cut, and we can just cut a groove round there following the string round. Now the first cut won't look too much, second one will be better, third cut, and in time we will be able to form a really nice spiral like this one here. So it can be done very, very easily, but with a little bit of patience. And if you just do that, remember to do that, then that gives you the nice framework of it. But quite easy. I mean, this one, within this growing summer, we could actually have looking into quite a nice spiral. This one was trimmed and done last year. And what a lovely statement it makes. Whether you actually have it on the patio, whether you've got it growing in the border, it doesn't matter. But of course, you can topiary into any shape. It's a great favourite to do, obviously, peacocks, birds, teddy bears. You know, visit your local centres or even some of the gardens that are open within the county. You'll see an awful lot of topiary work being done. I mean, you could spiral any shape you want, topiary any work you want. But they really make a nice statement on the smallest of patios and on the largest of gardens. It really doesn't matter too much. Quite easy, and hasn't got to be expensive. It's expensive if you want to buy the ready-made item, obviously. But if you want to buy tiny little box plants, you can get them from about £1.50 up to about £3, and then you can start your own shape. Obviously, you're going to take a while to get a topiary like this, but of course, you've got the enjoyment of actually doing it and saving an awful lot of money at the same time. We can see there the nice spirals beginning to come round. This plant again will fill out tremendously this summer and will require 2 or 3 more prunings. This one's a lovely dark green, which will give this one another really good feed to keep him this sort of colour. And if you have any plants that are in the garden and they're looking a little bit yellow or a little bit brown, not looking the colour they should, now is the ideal time to feed them, either through the foliar feeds, through the watering can or the sprayer, or a good top dressing of a rose food or a general purpose fertiliser. You'll be surprised how quickly they green up and look better. But a job to be looked at now, well worth doing slowly but surely, and you'll get that lovely, lovely effect. If you visit your local garden centre or nursery now, you'll find them full of these lovely bedding plants. Really nice quality. These are the Busy Lizzies, available in a wonderful array of colours. Marigolds, again available in a wonderful array of colours. We've got the lovely orangey with the copper heads. You've got the lovely yellows, looking really superb now. But of course we must remember, these are only annual. We will say it's plenty early enough to have a little bit of protection ready for them. Listen to the weather forecast, and if the weatherman says there's going to be a ground frost or frost, you must cover and protect these plants, because one night of frost, you've wasted these lovely plants. So yes, plant up in the very sheltered areas, but only where you can actually give them protection. But these sort of plants we rely on very, very heavy for summer colour. We want the colour from end of May right the way through till September, October. And these bedding plants are the things which will do this. And over the next few weeks, many millions of pounds will be spent on bedding plants. So visit your local nursery centres, see the plants you like, get the plants for the right sort of conditions. In the area over there where we show you the lovely blue, the gold and the silver foliage, we actually want to theme an orange and some more variegated leaves. So we're going to actually plant some of these marigolds in about 2 to 3 weeks when we're sure that the frosts have finished. And we shall plant these about 6-9 inches apart in nice informal groups. We shall keep off lines of bedding plants. So we shall probably plant 5s, 8s, 10 of these in a group, and then surround it with some more plants, so that we get a high impact of block colour. Other very good plants to put out, an old favourite, the geranium. You know, this one has the lovely variegated leaves, but again available in a wonderful array of colours, from really magenta colours to pinks to reds to whites. And with the foliage we get an added bonus of actually lighting up the garden. The big thing with the geraniums, of course, is look for any yellow leaves. None here. Very, very good. Some of the leaves, some of the flowers, a little bit on the end of their tether now. Any flowers which are finished, just carefully remove off. We don't want this plant with lots of dead flowers on, because when you've got dead flowers, the plant tries to make seed. So the energy goes from the plant into the seed. We don't want the seed. We want the plant to look good. We want a mass of new flowers. And we can see here masses of new flower buds coming on nearly every stem. So this plant in 2 to 3 weeks will be an absolute mass of colour. So as these flowers die off, we shall deadhead them, thus bringing on more flower, and all the energy of the plant is going into making it look good and flower. So again, plants like this we will plant out in about 2 to 3 weeks' time, when the fear of the frosts have really finished. And for those of you viewers with your own greenhouses, it's a nice idea on a nice day like today, if you can actually get the plants out into a sheltered area, get them hardened off. The worst thing we can do is to bring plants from a nice growing environment like a greenhouse straight out into the hostile environment of the garden. So we want a kind of a halfway house. So if you can bring them out during the day, if it's cold at night, bring them in. Do that for about a week, and the plants will harden themselves off tremendously. And then hopefully in a few weeks' time, when the frosts have gone and finished, then we can plant them out, and they won't have that severe check that a lot of plants do. And that's also a very, very good tip with the good old favourites, the hanging baskets. This one looking absolutely is a scent. This one will flower and flower and flower right the way through until the first frosts, as long as we water it well, keep it well fed. And the thing is with hanging baskets, where a lot of us think, I think we've got to try and remember to turn them. Otherwise the side on the wall or the fence, wherever we're hanging it, tends to get very, very devoid of light and starved. So if we can just keep this turning, as you can see the grower has obviously done with this, we've got a nice even plant looking really, really healthy and covered with flower bud. So this will give us a wonderful array of colour right the way through the summer. With all of these plants, inevitably they all get a little bit of a pest or a disease. Another mild winter, the sort of rain and humid weather we've been having, there's lots of pests around, green fly in particular, and that will affect most of these plants if it gets a chance. We had a postcard from Mr. Chapman in Harlow, who apparently this Christmas was lucky enough to be given a collection of apple trees for his garden. And he writes saying, the apple trees are flowering well and the small fruitlets are forming. Should these fruitlets be removed? Well, yes, they should be removed. The thing to do is to do it carefully and when the fruitlets are large enough. We don't want to touch any of this flower. tree is flowering of its own accord, no problem. The fruitlets, however, which are the little tiny fruitlets just here, if they get much bigger, they are going to take an awful lot of strength out of your newly planted apple trees. In fact, it's not only your apple trees, newly planted fruit trees, be them apples, pears, plums, peaches, anything like that. For the first year, even container-grown trees, these fruitlets want to be very, very carefully removed. And whether you want to do it with a sharp knife and just take the little tiny fruitlets off very, very carefully, or a pair of scissors, or your fingernails, if you're very, very careful, the thing we mustn't do is damage that fruiting spur. So just remove them when they're about that size or a little bit larger. Sometimes you'll get what we call June drop. It usually happens late May, so why they call it June drop I don't know. But a lot of the trees, if you don't do that, sometimes will shed their fruit naturally. But you're doing the right thing. Take these fruitlets off. For the rest of the tree, let them flower. Let them flower away. You have the beauty of the flower. Again, check for pest and disease. At the moment these are okay, but of course, you know, with another mild winter, aphids, apple scab, things like that could be a problem. So certainly keep an eye on the pests and diseases. And if you don't know what they look like, if you go to your local garden centre, they sometimes have very, very good illustrated leaflets that they'll give you, telling you what to watch out for, and also, more importantly, what to spray safely. Because of course, with fruit and flower like this, a lot of bees around. You know, had it been a slightly milder, warmer day today, I'm sure these rows of trees would have been buzzing with bees. They're very important to us. We don't want to damage those. So just carefully remove the fruitlets, only for this year. If you want to leave the odd one or two on per tree, by all means do, but don't let them crop fully. It's not fair on the tree, and it's also going to give you a very unfair comparison on the fruit. So remove them. Next year, let them go. You might as well have the beauty of the trees next year. Apart from that, you're doing everything right. You're watering them, you're feeding them. Apparently they're looking in very, very good condition. So a very nice Christmas present, and hopefully from next year onwards you'll be able to have some wonderful fruits from your reward. I had a very nice letter from Mr. Simpson in Saffron Walden, who informed me that he's got a cabbage palm similar to this one, about 4 years old, and all the lower leaves are yellowing and going a very dull colour. Well, Mr. Simpson, that's quite a normal thing for the cabbage palm, or the cordyline as we should really call it. It's quite a natural thing for it to do. And with those leaves, with a sharp knife, if you just cut them off, and that's what eventually forms this lovely trunk. And you'll see on the youngster here a very, very small trunk. If you look here on a slightly older specimen, how the trunk has been formed, and we've got the lovely head on the top here. So it is quite a natural thing. The lower leaves will yellow, will discolour, and you can just remove them. You're also saying how you've had quite a bit of wind damage on some of your plants. Well, obviously a large leaf plant like this, if we do get very heavy winds and the leaves break, you do get that damage. Again, you can just carefully remove them. But it's a thing where even on quite a windy day like today, you can see how ours are blowing around quite happily, really. Over the last 10 weeks, what a remarkable change in the weather. The leaves are coming on the trees, the flowers are out. We're even now thinking of putting that bedding out, but not too early. Be warned on the bedding. If the frosts come, the bedding is a no-no. So from me, Peter Jackson, in the Redtv Garden, thank you and goodbye.